I would also like to welcome Surin Kim. She works in the investigation unit at ABC News, and her presentation today specifically gets a lot at campaign finance and political contributions, which I know a lot of you have expressed specific interest in your applications.
I'm Surin. I'm a data reporter with the ABC News investigative unit. Today I would like to talk to you a little about the data and accountability reporting that I've been doing in Washington, D.C. Let me drop off my slides real quick. They're just very rudimentary. But also before I start, my internet has been really bad. So please excuse me if I have any technical issues. If you guys can see me well, that'd be great. Okay. So so I've been covering a lot of different topics for the investigative unit over the last few years, from the Mueller investigation to 2020 elections to COVID. But my specialty lies in political donations, lobbying, personal financial reports, etc. So I'd like to sort of introduce to you a little bit about those things. So political investigations 101. There are 4 main databases and records that I always go to. The first one is campaign finance disclosures. Obviously, the federal campaigns filed to the Federal Election Commission, and that data can be found in the FEC website, which is very accessible and easily searchable and very easy to use. But there are a couple other resources that you can supplement to the original database, which is ProPublica's FEC Itemizer. I love FEC Itemizer because it shows all the new filings that have come out that day. So, for example, if you're trying to look at all the new filings from a filing deadline, for example, it lists all the new filings from that day. So that's very easy to see. And Open Secrets, a lot of you guys might know already, has been compiling and analyzing campaign finance data for a long, long time. They not only show you like some of the basic information from campaign finance data, but they also do a lot of analysis as well as news reports. One of my favorite tools they create is the top donor list every cycle, which is very easy to use and helpful because FEC website allows you to look at individual donors, but they don't compile each donor for you. So Open Secrets is very helpful in those respects. State and local campaign finance reports are a little trickier or a lot trickier because every single state and every city is very different. But if you're looking at, initially you can look at followthemoney.org, which compiles state level campaign finance reports. But my advice is always, you could look at that initially, but always go to the original state campaign finance database site to look at the Open Secrets also compiles and analyzes lobbying disclosure reports that are very accessible to us. Another source or resource that I always go to is Foreign Lobbying Disclosure, where you can find from the Foreign Agent Registration Act website. You can search by, again, similarly with lobbying disclosure reports, by the firm or the lobbying firm, by client, and the new search tool actually lets you just search by text as well. So that's really helpful. And Open Secrets also compiles FARA filings as well. Another great resource that I always go to is personal financial disclosure reports. The executive branch officials use, or they file to the Office of Government Ethics, and the White House officials also filed to the OGE, but they released them earlier through their own request forms. So that's helpful. And lawmakers have their own disclosure system as well, so you can find them. And the sites are all linked there, so you could see them. And so what do we do with these resources? I'd say there are 4 points that I always tell people to keep in mind of. One is know what they're required to report. For example, campaign finance reports always know that the committees or campaigns have to report their receipts or contributions. So names of contributor, names of donors, their employers, occupation, addresses, amounts, as well as dates of the donation, as well as whether the donation is coming from a joint fundraising committee or directly through the campaigns. Those are all helpful to know. Also, campaigns are obviously required to report expenditures and the description of the expenditure, the name of the vendors, the addresses of the vendors, and for financial disclosure reports, officials have to report their income and salary over the past year, and they have to disclose the values of assets they own. So those are really important to know, first of all. And secondly, always know the filing deadlines, because if you're a political investigative reporter, you always want to keep track of new filings when they come out, so that you can be competitive when reporting out new information. So, campaign finance reports can be monthly or quarterly or biannual, depending on the types of committees, and they're all laid out on the FEC website. Lobbying disclosure reports are always quarterly, and personal financial disclosures are trickier because it depends on the person and when they assumed their position and stuff like that. But you can, and always have a running list of things that you're interested in. For example, I always keep track of the RNC and the DNC's campaign finance reports. I'm always looking out for Trump's Save America PAC's disclosure reports, as well as Biden campaign. And for lobbying disclosures, I'm always looking at Jeff Richetti's lobbying firm. Jeff Richetti is a brother of Biden's White House official, Steve Richetti. And during Trump era, I always kept track of Brian Ballard's lobbying firm, which was flourishing under the Trump presidency. And finally, like all data stories, you always have to continue talking to sources despite all the great information you can get from these documents and data, because firstly, as great as these documents and data are, they don't always show you the full picture of what's actually happening. So you have to talk to donors, lobbyists, or staffers, as well as watchdog groups and just experts to see, what's actually going on behind the scenes. And also, these people can give you great tips because you can't be following, every single document and data that's coming out. So they're always a great source. So this is the campaign finance data website from the FEC. You can search by committee name or by donor. For example, here's Save America PAC, run by Trump and his allies. You can look at their basic information, as well as some of the, if you go to the filings tab, you can look at their original filings in PDF forms or in FEC data set. You can also search through their expenditures by name of the vendor, or through time period, or by amount, or also by description. You can also search, as I mentioned, through donors. Here I'm searching through the late Sheldon Adelson contributions over the years. He's a major GOP donor. And here is the lobbying disclosure site where I've tried searching Richetti. So you can search by registrant, which is the lobbying firm, client is the client of the firm, and you can also search through individual lobbyists. And here is what you can see from the search result. Oh, and this is what the actual lobbying report looks like.